Hello, everyone. Welcome to Healthy Living right here on Independent Television. And on this episode, we're going to be talking malaria. As we saw last week, Friday, that the World Health Organization declared on Friday last week World Malaria Day. And the theme actually was Malaria Ends With Us, Reinvest, Reimagine, and Reignite. Welcome on board. I am Anwuluwapo Stevens. Joining me virtually to have an interesting conversation regarding malaria and everything you need to know is Dr. Blessing Ezewu. He is the Senior Medical Doctor, Western Hospital. Dr. Blessing, thank you so much for being a part of the show today. Good afternoon. Can you hear me, Doctor?
I can hear you clearly.
Okay, great. So I would love that you give me a background view to World Malaria Day 2025, its essence, and how important it is that we get to observe it every single year.
Good afternoon once more. Um, World Malaria Day is usually celebrated on April 25th. And the theme this year is Reinvest, Reimagine, and Reinvent. So the plan and the goal is to tackle malaria at the grassroots level. Uh, for us in Africa, it has been one of our serious challenge because malaria is endemic to our environment. So, and the number of cases concerning the number of deaths recorded with malaria is significant for us to know that it's a very important period to be tuned up to what WHO is trying to process. So the plan is that whatever project WHO is projecting is for us to work alongside with it and make sure that we get the message that malaria can be eradicated. Malaria can be eradicated.
Of course, yes, indeed. Malaria can be eradicated, and I know we've been on this conversation for a very, very long time. But let me also quickly bring on board George Aham, if he's here with us. George Aham, a biologist from Western Hospital. Thank you so much for being a part of the show as well. Okay, so whilst we're still trying to restore or have connection with George, let me move back to you, Dr. Blessing. So just recently today, it was in the news, there was a major headline on New Telegraph newspaper, and it says the study links malaria to childhood cancer. Can you take us through that? How does malaria have a link with childhood cancer? Is that even possible?
I didn't get the message. Is it malaria linked with childhood cancer?
Yes, according to a study, we saw that on the newspaper this morning. So I'm here thinking in my head, how does it even work? What's the linkage between malaria and childhood cancer?
Okay. I don't think there's any link between malaria and childhood cancer. But that could be a projection, but it's not, maybe studies are ongoing, but currently there's no link between malaria and cancer. But the damage being done by malaria, I think that's what they're trying to look into. Malaria could cause some end organ damage like the kidneys and some other organs, the heart and other organs involved, the body. So I think that's what they are looking at. But I don't think there's any link between malaria and cancer. Maybe the studies are ongoing, but there's no current analysis of that situation. It might be a study. You can never say never.
Never say never. Now let's get into it right now. What is malaria? Because I feel, is it just me, or malaria is something synonymous with us right here in Africa? Or it's actually a different terrain in other parts of the world? Can you take us through that?
Okay, please just ask the question again. I couldn't get it. I'm so sorry.
Okay, so I would love you to help break down the term malaria. What really is malaria?
Okay, malaria is an infection spread by the bites of the female Anopheles mosquitoes. So in our environment, females Anopheles mosquitoes, which spreads Plasmodium falciparum, or the other infections could be from P. vivax, which are more common to humans. So uh, most times the progression is usually 10 to 15 days. You start seeing symptoms around 10 to 15 days after the female, after being bitten by the mosquitoes. So the symptom presents with fever, headache, joint pains, chills, cold, other abdominal upsets, and others. But majority of time in our environment is what we are used to. So most times, but not every fever is malaria. But in our environment, being bitten by mosquitoes, 10 to 14 days, the progression starts. So the person comes down with fever, headaches, joint pains, and other illness, febrile illness. So um, for us, as the progression goes on, the first day the person comes down with fever, temperature that are above 37.5 degrees Celsius. So the person has some low grade to high grade fever. The person also has joint aches, also has some form of body weakness. In some instances, there could be form of jaundice and other presentations which the person could present with. So the important thing is that when it comes to malaria, the important is treat early, because the treatment early prevents what will take place later on. Malaria could cause death. That is the truth. So prevention is better than the cure that you are aiming for. So you prevent the malaria. You start with treatments early to prevent death that will occur later.
So you said something that just occurred to me. You said malaria could cause death. Like,
Yes.
malaria causing death. How possible is
Severe form
that?
of malaria.
And you
Severe form
also,
of malaria could cause death.
okay, severe form, right? And you also did
Yes.
say that not all fevers are malaria fever. So how would you know which is the one for malaria or not?
Okay, that's where the lab diagnosis come in. The lab diagnostic aspect of checking for if there is a Plasmodium falciparum in your bloodstream. So they do a tick film, a tick, they can do a tick film. Currently now we have a rapid diagnostic test, RODT. So the rapid diagnostic test could give you a result immediately. You can get a result immediately. For the tick film, it takes some minutes to hour to process. So a diagnosis of any form of malaria being present in your bloodstream tells us that this malaria fever.
Now, how often should one go for malaria checkup or trying to find out if one have malaria or not? Because it seems to me that malaria is one of the most commonest, if there's a word like that, illness facing a lot of Africans. I wouldn't just say Nigerians. So should it be every month, every 2 weeks? And there's also another school of thought that feels that a particular genotype has the malaria illness stick to it as well. How true is that?
Okay, for the questions you asked, how often you should go for malaria testing? Once you notice any symptom, fever, headaches, you can go for malaria testing. Then it should not be too frequent. Sometimes it might not be necessary. You might check, it might just be a headache from stress. So you just need to rest properly. But when you present with fever, you need to go for testing. Then the second question you asked was concerning a particular blood group
Right.
being linked with malaria currently. So the truth is that all forms of blood group have been affected by malaria. So there's no particular group that said, I'm prone to malaria. Once you are bitten by mosquitoes, some people have some form of immunity. Be that they could have been exposed previously. So it takes some time before they start seeing presentation. So that gives them some form of immunity. If you are not from this environment and you're coming in for the first time, so that one could be more fatal because you have not been bitten by mosquitoes before. So you are not from this environment, you are coming in like travelers that are coming into an environment where there's mosquitoes and they are being bitten by mosquitoes. Their own could be presenting with a severe form. They could present with a severe form of malaria.
Now let's go back to the theme of this year's World Malaria Day 2025. It says malaria ends with us, reinvest, reimagine, reignite. I remember some time ago, couple of years back, I'm not pretty sure what year right now, there were talks regarding malaria vaccine. And then during the course of the show, you did say that it is possible to eradicate malaria. How possible is it? And what's the update regarding malaria vaccine in the world?
Well, the update regarding malaria vaccines is still undergoing testing in various places. They've done some testing in some African countries, and Nigeria will be inclusive. The vaccination, it takes some time to get an approval from the FDA, from the people in charge to regulate vaccinations. So as the testings, as the trials are ongoing, they'll come out with something meaningful. That is our prayer for that it will come out with something meaningful, that there'll be a vaccination for malaria. Also, the theme this year was reinvest, reimagine, and reignite. Reinvest in treatment of malaria, how to eradicate malaria from the localities. Also, reimagine that malaria can be cleared from our environment, and also to sensitize people around us that malaria is a serious illness that can be taken care of.
Now, at this point, what do you think the federal government can do, the state government, even the local government level as well? What roles do you feel the government needs to play in the eradication of malaria right here in Nigeria?
Okay, for us, for the government is already sponsoring most malaria treatment at the local level, which are the primary health care centers. For the primary health care centers, which involve getting them rapid diagnostic testings, kits that they can use to detect malaria early and start treatment immediately. At the primary health care level, they need medications, they need the rapid diagnostic test kits, they need support, they need staffs and personnel to be on ground to run such facilities. So the government will invest in the number of persons running these facilities, these primary health care centers.
Right.
The government could invest in providing medications. The government could invest in providing the test kits to make the diagnosis of malaria rapid.
Absolutely.
And treatment started immediately.
Absolutely. Dr. Blessing Ezewu, I really must thank you so much for finding our time to be with us this afternoon. Dr. Blessing is the senior medical doctor at Western Hospital. I honestly feel that's the whole lot of thing the government of the day needs to do in the eradication of malaria in Nigeria and also in the world at large. Well, thank you so much for being a part of the show today.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay, so that's how we get to leave the conversation here. Always an unending one right here on ITV. I am Anuoluwapo Stevens. Do remember to stay safe, stay healthy, and be fit.